Joining us now here on In the Circle, she's the new Yale head coach, was named the head coach at Yale earlier this year on May 9th. To be specific, was obviously an assistant at Yale and, of course, has had an incredible career. Head coach Laura Ricciardone joining us here. How's that new title, head coach, sounding out?
It's great. It's been a whirlwind of a summer, but I'm really grateful to be in the position that I am at the place that I am here at Yale.
What was it like through the going through that process and getting that opportunity to be a head coach? Because I know you and we've spoken over the years, and one of the reasons you went to Yale was to hopefully first your passion for the Ivy League, as we'll talk about, but also to hopefully one of your dreams and goals was to be a head coach in the league, and here it is at Yale.
For sure. It was a whirlwind in sort of the process of being interviewed. And I'm just really grateful to Vicki Chun, our athletic director, and Anne-Marie Guglieri, our deputy AD, for the swiftness and sort of the interview process. And I had a really clear vision for the program, and sort of they are behind me 100%. And I'm just really thankful for the opportunity to be here. But like you're saying, it's something that I've always dreamed of. I was a student athlete at Harvard, so I played in the league, and the chance to come back here 3 years ago, I thought would be a great learning opportunity to get a lay of the land of, the different sort of techniques and time constraints and dealing with the weather and sort of developing student athletes of this caliber on and off the field, and just be able to sink my teeth into player development within the Ivy League. And I'm fortunate to have had the chance, over the course of the 3 years to learn a ton here at Yale. And now I'm in the position that I am, and really looking forward to our student athletes coming back here in a couple of weeks to get year one started.
Did you ever wonder if this day would come? Where you'd be a head coach?
Certainly. They're so, in the grand scheme of things, there are so few positions out there. And particularly, I knew I wanted to be in the Ivy League, right? And there was, there's 8 schools and a lot of programs that are really established and traditioned and successful. And it was something that I wasn't going to put a timeline on, in terms of when or if this were to come to be, and just took advantage of sort of every opportunity that came my way in sort of assistant positions in different conferences, and getting to experience different locations and level of play and responsibilities to be able to, keep adding tools to my bag for whenever the opportunity came up.
What was it like when the players found out, and what's been the message to them since?
Yeah, I was really fortunate to be able to tell them and talk with them in person before they left campus this past May, right? They were in the thick of finals, finishing up, and I was able to catch them, thankfully, in person, and they're thrilled, and I'm, thrilled right alongside them. And I think the biggest thing they're feeling is just sort of reinvigorated, right? In the sense of enthusiasm and joy and motivation to get back to campus and be able to get underway. My message to them was, it's going to be a lot of hard work, right? There's, I think, a lot of excitement surrounding whether it's a coaching change or something new to the program that can spark a lot of short-term motivation or excitement and things like that. But it's not always sunshine and rainbows, right? There's a lot of building that needs to happen. And they know that, I know that. And I think they are wholly prepared and excited to come back and do that at the end of August here.
Who did you reach out once you got the job? Was there any, I know, because you got a lot of friends in the coaching industry. Who did you reach out for advice since? What was that like once you knew you were, oh, wow, I got to be the head coach?
Yeah. Ken Eriksen was one of my first calls. And he's been someone that I obviously worked for 3 years down in South Florida. And he's someone that I honestly just consider family. He's the reason that I am in the position that I'm in, and the coach that I am. And sort of, I attribute, any success that I have been a part of and any that I will be a part of, I think you can really trace back to him, and what I was able to take from my time with him at South Florida. He gave me the opportunity to sort of be a ride along and help out with USA softball and just get exposed to things that I otherwise, wouldn't have had an opportunity to. The way I like to kind of say it to people and friends in the industry is just that, like, I've gotten to experience decades worth of softball in a really short amount of time, just getting to talk with Ken on a daily basis, and the players that I've gotten to work with, and the games I've gotten to be a part of, and just be a sponge, and kind of learn as much as I can along the way. So he was one of my first calls sort of outside of my immediate family, in terms of wanting to not only tell him, but get some advice.
Absolutely.
He's a guy that's done it for a long time at a really high level. And so he's someone that, I know it's without a shadow of a doubt, I can send a text to, and I'm getting a phone call from him pretty immediately right after. So super thankful for what he's done for me, and the chance to learn from him and continue to, frankly.
What was his reaction when you told him?
He was really excited for me. I've been super clear all along with what I want to do long-term in my career. And I'm lucky to have known that for a long time and communicated that to Ken. Even when I first got to South Florida in, 2017, in that season. But he is someone that really understands why the league is important to me, and why the motivation that I have to sort of impact the type of players that we have access to in the Ivy League is important to me. So he's been so supportive, and was just thrilled, and I think gave some really kind, assurances and words of confidence that are always helpful for a first-time head coach going into this thing. So
That's very good. Now, obviously, you mentioned when you went to Yale, lots transpired during your time there that, quite frankly, I don't think Ken or anybody could have prepared for it. With obviously COVID hitting,
yeah.
and no league was hit harder than the Ivy League, where you missed 2 seasons worth
Yep.
of softball. Just describe for the audience that may not be aware of that, what has it been like, where you lose out on 2020. You don't play in 2021, and you're coming back in 2022, but you're almost playing catch up while everybody else has been playing. Like, describe what the last couple of years have been like.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I think going to be studied years down the road here in terms of the experience. And in 2020, it was my first season. We played 15 games, so we got through sort of our 3 preseason sort of pre-conference tournament trips. And then everything was shut down right after that. The week before we were supposed to start conference play, the Ivy League was the first to pull the trigger on shutting down, right, and sort of canceling the remainder of seasons across the board. And immediately after that, all the dominoes fell. And, I think it was a domino effect across the country. But we did not obviously compete the rest of the 2020 season. The Ivy League made the call to not compete in any sport in the 2021 season. So that was our second year as a spring sport of not competing. And then in 22, obviously, like you're saying, we were coming back, and for the first time in a long time, we had at that point, we had 17 players on the roster, and 3 of them had played in an Ivy game, right, in a conference game. So you're at the point that there's just so many new faces, right, from players to campus to staff, even within the department, that it's all very much kind of a blank slate, right? And I think the league saw a lot of parity in terms of outcomes of conference series and play, because we all have been out of commission for the last 2 years, effectively. In 2021, we had 1 student athlete enrolled in the spring on campus. So it's not even like we were practicing right together as a group and just not playing. Most of our student athletes took a gap year and weren't enrolled. So when you say you missed out on some development time, you missed out on some development time. It very much was, kids were back home doing different jobs, internships. Some were enrolled. A vast majority of our team chose to take time off, to sort of let the pandemic kind of run its course in that year. And the other thing you have to consider is the Ivy League has pretty strict parameters around, you can't redshirt, you can't be a grad student, and other things of that nature. So it's not as simple as, let me stay enrolled and get a master's degree and use my extra year of eligibility. You can't do that at Ivy League institutions. So our players were forced to make some really hard decisions and calls over the course of the last couple of years of, should I stay enrolled? Should I unenroll and try and get a job? Do I, come for one semester? And while we were waiting for, policies and decisions to go into place, but they managed it honestly as best they could, right? They took advantage of opportunities they had to get on, local fields and go practice, or gyms back home, return to sort of some other coaches back home. And now we're in a place where we feel like we've gotten our 22 season under our belt. We had many, many, many young players get a ton of experience. And so we feel like we're in a good place going into 2023 to have a solid foundation under us for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, it feels like just playing a season is an accomplishment, right? I mean, it sounds respect for the whole league, because it had to be unique. And look, obviously it's no secret every student athlete that goes to a Yale, that goes to the league, is, they're there for academics first. So in a way that helped you probably from the standpoint of, this is, they're going to stick around because they got to do that. But on the other hand, you're trying to recruit in a time period where the majority of the time you can't even see them in person.
Yep. I know, that's our 22, our incomers now. They were the group that so much of their recruiting happened virtually, right? With our campuses. Again, the Ivy League was just so strict in parameters surrounding where campuses closed, no visitors, things like that. So a lot of recruits couldn't even come to campuses in their sort of peak pandemic recruiting process. And so much of this incoming class now, we're able to look back on it and say, like, yeah, we took you on like some video Zoom tours, right, in the recruiting process to show you campus and get a feel for it. So like so many others, it was just, we were forced to like get creative, throughout the process and figure out a way to do it remotely.
What have you learned about yourself during all this, and about yourself that might help you here now as the head coach?
Yeah. I think it was a really helpful experience in terms of keeping perspective, right? And playing the long game of this. That's something that I attribute another lesson of Coach Eriksen, to sort of always play the long game. And I think, you can get really disheartened along the way in terms of, we were shut down in 2020. We weren't sure what was going to happen in 21. And then, the verdict came of the season not being canceled. And it was a roller coaster of different emotions. And I think what you take from it is that if you're, surrounded by the right people, you're able to sort of keep a perspective about it and play the long game in this of where you're going, and not so much get stuck in maybe the acute emotions of the right now.
When did you want to get into coaching? For those that don't know, you were a star pitcher at Harvard, which that in itself might catch some people off guard. I mean, you've been on the both sides of that rivalry there, but
yeah.
Describe your journey, how you got involved playing softball, getting to Harvard, and then getting into coaching quickly.
Yeah, I took the road less traveled coming out of Harvard for sure. Most people in their senior year are sort of doing these mass interview processes for consultant gigs, finance gigs, anything like that, or law school, med school, things of that nature. And going into my junior year, I can remember it so distinctly. I can tell you where I was on Harvard's campus when I called my parents and told them that I wanted to coach. I was working for this nonprofit at the time over the summer. I have all sorts of sort of odds and ends jobs experiences, just given the access Harvard gives you to different internships and jobs. But I sort of figured out the summer going into my junior year that I wanted to coach softball. And there wasn't necessarily a lot of people coming out of Harvard to do that. I don't know that there's another Harvard softball alum currently actively coaching, and definitely not the college game, but possibly, at other levels. But Jenny Allard, my coach at Harvard and still the head coach at Harvard, I think she's going into her, maybe 28th year there. She's been there for a very long time and very much built the place. She's been really, really instrumental to my career, just in terms of, okay, try this, or, she gave me some early on camp experience, even as a Harvard student athlete, of allowing me to have some responsibility and try some things, and kind of a guiding light of sorts throughout my career, of next steps and paths and things like that, because like you're saying, it's just uncommon. And there's not necessarily a lot of Ivy League student athletes that go into college coaching. Would I love for that to change? Absolutely. And I think that's something that we can always encourage, and we need more, really good young people in the game. And but in terms of sort of how I kicked off my career of sorts, Jenny Allard was super helpful in just giving advice and being able to give some wisdom, because she's such a sort of seasoned veteran at this point in the profession. And I'm really grateful and lucky to have gotten an assistant coaching position at the Division I level, which is where I wanted to be right out the gate. And I worked for Ashley Waters at Boston U, who also was my coach at Harvard for the 2 years prior. So I played for Ashley my junior and senior year at Harvard. That summer I graduated, she got the head coaching job at BU and hired me as an assistant. So you want to talk about trial by fire, that was my year one, right? With very much getting experience on the other side of the game. And I've just been lucky my whole career to be surrounded by really giving people, giving in terms of advice, wisdom, opportunity. And I'm looking forward to, being able to pay that forward throughout the rest of my career too.
Was it strange the first time you played Harvard as with wearing the Yale colors? What was that like for you?
Yeah, it was. I had, I take a lot of flack for it, I won't lie, from my fellow Harvard teammates, and they have all been just like wonderfully supportive of the news and sort of being the head coach at Yale. I think they're all looking forward to the first sort of series in 2023 on the other side of this too as a head coach. But it was, Harvard will be a place that I am always grateful for. Jenny Allard gave me the opportunity to get a degree from Harvard as a kid coming out of Slidell, Louisiana. And she absolutely changed my world and sort of what I had access to, and wouldn't be in the position I am without that opportunity. So it'll always hold a special place in my heart. But that being said, I think it's the new challenge I have now is Yale doing it Yale's way, right? So Harvard's the longtime traditioned successful program in this league. And she's won a lot of Ivy championships and been at the top of the league for a long time at Harvard. And you see the same out of Princeton, right? Lisa Van Akkern's done an incredible job in her time there, and being able to establish these cultures and winning ways. And I get the opportunity to try and build that here. And that's something that's exciting to me, specifically about Yale, that this is a place to build. It's not, I had someone tell me near and dear to me that I'm a builder, not a fine tuner. And I very much take that to heart. And I think I've got a great opportunity ahead and a brilliant staff in place to be able to do that.
Now, you went from Boston to
Mhm.
USF to work with. How did that come about? Because I remember when you were hired, I was kind of thrown off because, like, wait, there's a Northeast Ivy League girl coming down to Tampa. I mean, granted, it's Tampa, so maybe that answers my question there. But what was that process like of you ending up on Coach Eriksen's staff at South Florida?
Totally. Yeah. I always really value being able to sort of like have mentors and learn from other people. I'm just a lifelong learner in this. And I reached out to Ken, I can remember, with an email, honestly, sort of as a shot in the dark. That he was one of those situations where I was shocked when he replied, a few minutes later. But I knew that he was someone that I could learn from at a different level than almost anyone else, in terms of his experience, on field play, philosophies, things like that. um, I had the opportunity, which I'm so thankful to Ashley for at BU, to do a lot, right? If that makes sense, and had a lot of hands-on responsibility, and was able to just jump right in. And I wanted the chance to sort of see what I didn't know, and see a different level of softball. I was an Ivy League player, Patriot League with Boston U. I wanted to see a different level of softball, right? And sort of how those practices were structured, and what were those tournaments like? What's it like to host tournaments and be a regular contender in the postseason? And thankfully, Ken, was, I think, equally as intrigued. Like you're saying, it's not every day you sort of get a email from someone that played at Harvard. And Ken had some previous connections to some family friends that had gone to Harvard too, so he was familiar with it. And I think, what Ken values too is just smart people, right? And people that are able to work hard. And I'm just grateful he took a chance on me. And like you're saying, welcome to kid from the Northeast down to Tampa.
Right. But what was
So,
it like? Because at that time he's with Team USA.
yeah.
He's not there all the time. So you and Jessica Moore at the time
Yep.
was also the assistant. You both had probably more responsibilities as an assistant than
Mm-hmm.
many in the country have,
Yep.
just because you're both probably running, especially you. You're probably running the program when he's with Team USA. Just describe what was that like,
Yeah.
because he's away a lot of the times and you're kind of picking up the slack. In fact, if I remember correctly, in the 2019 American Conference Tournament, you and Jessica were scheduled to coach the semis because right? He left the
I
tournament to go to
remember
a
this. Yeah.
graduation. Is that true?
Yes, that was true. That game was supposed to be versus Wichita State. I'll never forget that. It ended up getting rained out, that tournament. It was, gosh,
Yeah.
we couldn't catch a break with weather to get those games in. But yeah, I'll say that Ken, if you're hired by Ken Eriksen, right, that is a nod that he trusts you fully, right? And he very much has an established, successful program. And my first year there, I was a sponge. I have piles of notebooks, right, of anything that was said, anything that we did a certain way, even down to practice setups or execution of drills and the language that was used. I am a sponge, right? Anywhere that I go, and sort of any group that I have a chance to listen to. And I think that he trusted me, right? I think he trusted me a ton, sort of right from the get-go. And I made it clear that I was all in and from the start. And I think I always will just sort of have a really special connection to him, because I just get him and he gets me, right, in terms of how our brains work. And I think it was a great match at the right time, that he needed assistance that he could rely on, right? Well, he, like you're saying, he had so many responsibilities with Team USA. And Jess was still playing at that time too, so she was on the road a ton as well. And I'm just thankful for the trust that they had, right? That Ken was able to sort of say with certainty that and confidence that yeah, there were times that I would be sort of his proxy at head coach meetings, right, for the American, or have decision-making opportunities that an assistant coach, at that point within the first 5 years of my career still wouldn't have access to otherwise. So when I say like, I've learned decades worth of information in softball in a short amount of time, it's for reasons like that, right? That Ken and Jess are away in Japan for the All-Star series and we're starting practice. So we've got to figure out a way to execute this sort of with a limited staff. And Ken is brilliant at being able to develop assistants and trust the people that he works with to allow them to also have responsibility and sort of step into that and trust that it's going to be successful in the end.
No doubt. And, Valerie Arioto was the director of ops during that time. I mean, had a lot of success, couple conference titles. I'm just curious, have you just FaceTime Valerie yet to your team just to tell your team, hey, look, I'm buddies with an Olympian here, Valerie. Have you used that card yet?
I haven't yet, but I certainly will. No. I certainly will. Val's an incredible human, and stuff that like people didn't really see, that I got to throw VP to Val Arioto every day of the week and watch her work, right? It's stuff like that I got to experience in my time at South Florida that like I'm saying, I have notebooks.
And she's so low key. I remember when you all came down to Orlando and you had your SID and I think your radio in the press box, and she's in the press box, in the visiting press box, nonchalant. And I'm like, wait a minute. Like, I had to look back. I'm like, isn't that Valerie? Are you not like one of the best power hitters in the planet? I was like, oh yeah. It's like, okay.
Exactly. I know.
That's crazy. But you won a couple conference titles. You had a player there, Georgina Corrick, who's done pretty well for her since as well. That helped.
Unbelievable. Talk about one of just the best in the game and just best people in the game. And you just hope that she not only has the opportunity to play for as long as she wants to, that we're graced with the ability to watch her for as long as we can. But she's someone that I'm just so proud of her journey, and just an incredible human, not just softball player or pitcher, just a really, really neat human if you have the chance to talk with her too.
Do you ever wonder what if I didn't send Ken that email, or where I would be if it was? Because
all the time.
Right? Because like in a lot of ways that helped you pave the way for where you're at now. I mean, that's an incredible experience.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, there's no denying that sort of without University of South Florida and my time there, and sort of like you were saying, the ability to have the decision-making power and responsibility that I did, I just wouldn't be prepared for this current role, right? I would feel wholly overwhelmed, and it wouldn't be something that I would be a legitimate hire for, right? And wouldn't have the experience to be able to do it. But two, I just wouldn't have access.
Right.
I just wouldn't, right, because I wouldn't have the necessary skills yet. So when I say I owe him everything, I mean it wholeheartedly in my career, and continue to learn from him and will for many years to come, I hope.
We could spend hours talking about him. We'll have to just bring you back just to do a single episode on Ken Eriksen stories. I feel like there's plenty, but you're busy. You're very busy. But so here's my last question to you. You mentioned earlier about Harvard having the success in Ivy. You know what it's like to be successful in the league. Yeah. What's the keys to put Yale in there as a conference title contender? What is going to be the keys there as you vision?
Yeah, for sure. It's a great question. I think something I've expressed to our players too before they left campus, and what we're going to spend a lot of time building this fall, is just sort of our identity in this, right? And doing this Yale's way. And we're not Harvard, and we're not Princeton, we're not Dartmouth, we're not anyone sort of else in the league that has had some success. We need to find our identity with this. And I can tell you a big part of our identity is we're young. Our staff is young, our team is young, and we are a very, very energetic bunch. that is not afraid to put in the work, right? And I think that the team is really excited to dive in. And what we're going to dive into in the fall is player development. We need to be a really player development centered program in sort of all facets of the game. And our team is embracing that. And they know that that's going to be a challenge, and it's going to come with hard days and a ton of failure along the way. But the moment that you sort of have that aha moment and grasp it, it's worth every bit of struggle along the way. So I think you're going to see a team in Yale softball that's just tough, right? And a gritty, tough group that we had to work for it, right? We had to develop these skills, and we had to develop this toughness, and develop and learn how to win in pressure situations, and establish a culture and establish new traditions, and the legwork that it takes to do that. We don't have sort of, this track record of winning Ivy championships that we've sort of been there, done that. We haven't been there and done that. And for us, we're going to try to use that to our advantage. And we have, like I'm saying, a group of young guns that are excited and ready to dive in, and looking to harness that excitement that they have and that our staff has to just get to work, is the best way to put it, and show up every day to get a little bit better in what you do in September. And, you do that every day until you get to May, and sort of build each step along the way.
Well, I'm excited for you. I was really excited when I heard the news you get the job there. I know this is something you've been working on since, you and I met like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So I'm generally super excited for you, and I'm going to be following you closely. I look forward to finding out the story once you do pop in the Valerie Ariotto surprise FaceTime. Although some might not be surprised. Maybe I've ruined the surprise in the episode. But you got a big Rolodex, so you got surprises ahead for the players. So, hey, congrats on the job. Good luck. And we'll definitely get you back on down the road here as the things settle in. But good luck, and thanks for doing this.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Eric. Appreciate it.